Right, thank you, members, for attending today. The chairperson, the newly elected chairperson, will give a brief announcement of the do's and don'ts of this meeting today, the protocol for meetings that are held remotely. The first item on the agenda I will pursue, and then the newly elected chair will take over the agenda from agenda item 2 onward. I'd like to ask for nominations, please, for the election of chairperson of the Coychurch Crematorium Joint Committee for the ensuing year, and in accordance with the Coychurch Crematorium Service Agreement or Joint Committee Service Agreement, it is the turn of Available Morgan, councillor, to be chairperson for 2021-22. Could I have a nomination, please?
Proposed, Councillor Gwyn John.
Can I have a seconder, please?
I second that, sir.
Councillor Turner, I second.
Are we all in agreement with that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Mark.
Thank you, members. I will now ask Councillor John to take the chair and proceed with the remainder of the agenda. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, members, and thank you, my colleagues from the Vale, for supporting me. I'd just like to make a quick opening statement. This meeting of the Coychurch Crematorium Joint Committee, due to government advice, will be held virtually. The meeting has been recorded and will be available via the council's website to be viewed as soon as possible following the meeting. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing it from remote locations. Please could everybody ensure that mobile phones are switched off or to silent mode. Please do not use your mobile phone at any time throughout the meeting. Members will have received an electronic copy of the agenda. Officers will present a summary of the key points in respect of the 2 main reports. The agenda can be viewed on the council's website. Members and officers may switch their cameras on when speaking, but I would ask that, with the exception of myself as chairperson, all other times you keep your cameras and microphones switched off. If anyone wishes to raise a point or question, they should press the hands up icon on the screen hand at the top right-hand side of the Microsoft Teams window. I will then come to you in turn. Please lower your hand when you have finished speaking. An officer from Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and monitoring the use of microphones. When necessary, he will mute those not being used. I would ask officers to introduce themselves when I invite them to speak. Now I'll proceed with the agenda for the meeting. Right, so I'll take agenda item 2, election of vice chairperson from Bridgend County Borough Council members. May I have a nomination, please? No nomination?
I nominate Mr. Pacello. Is that acceptable, Chair?
Thank you, Councillor Pacello. And the seconder?
Yes, seconded.
Seconded. Thank you very much. All in favour?
Yep.
Yeah.
Show of hand. Thank you very much, Councillor Pacello.
Thank you. Thank you, Gwyn. Accepted. Thank you very much, members.
Thank you very much. Good to see you here. Apologies for absence. Mark, could we have apologies, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Apologies for absence today I've received is from Councillor John Spanswick and Councillor Elaine Venables. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And declarations of interest. We have any declarations? No?
No.
Right, we are. Thank you very much. Then we go on to approval of the minutes of the meeting, 5th of March, 2021. I'll take them page by page. Page 3, page 4, page 5,
Are you on mute, Gwyn? I
Chair-
can't hear you.
I can't
Chair,
hear
you're on
anything.
mute.
God.
You're on mute again.
Hello, Chair. Councillor John, please. We seem to have lost Councillor John, members.
Can't-
So
You can't unmute him from your end, Mark, can you?
he's not. I don't think he's left the meeting. I think he's lost. Are there any comments on the minutes, members? Then please.
Yep.
Now, can I move that the vice chair take the chair until the chair is resumed?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Can you take the chair, please, Councillor Pachella?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. I'm just a little bit delayed here. Councillor Hopkins, I think, was going to resume.
Now, I move that
In-
you take the chair until the chair's technical
Oh, right,
issues are
okay, yeah.
resolved.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. We were on page 5, going through the minutes. Any comments on page 5?
Yeah. Yes.
Councillor Cox, may
Thank
we
you.
have your comments, please?
Yeah. On page 5, it's the 5th paragraph. It says, member noted with concern that the cremation fees charged by the Vale of Glamorgan were, I wonder whether we ought to put the privately owned Vale of Glamorgan to make sure everybody can assume we're talking about the Vale of Glamorgan private crematorium rather than the Vale of Glamorgan Council.
Point taken, Councillor Cox. Any comments on that from members, please?
I've got no issue with that. Yes.
No, quite
I'm
correct.
sure. I'm sure we all realise what it's talking about, but the trouble is, anyone else who reads the meetings may misinterpret them.
I don't think we should be overly concerned at the number of people who might read our minutes outside this committee. But yes, I agree with you.
Should we take that then as noted and make the amendments?
Yes, that's
Yes.
fine.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Cox.
Right
We
here.
move on now to page 6.
Excuse me, Chair. Excuse me, Vice Chair. The chair's back now, so he can take back over. He obviously lost connection.
Okay,
Right.
thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Councillor Priscilla. Problems with the laptop. Here we are. I'm back now anyway. Item 6, annual review of the business plan objectives. This is with you, Joanna, or Zach? Zach. Okay, Zach.
I was just going to introduce it, if I may, Chair. Yeah, so the papers that are attached, most of the members that are familiar with this board will have seen these reports in a similar format in previous years. We have our annual review pack, which gives us an opportunity to both reflect on the public satisfaction with the crematorium and also an opportunity to look at our plans, the things that we were planning to put in place during the year, and monitor progress and see how we got on with those. I'll hand over to Joanna to go through the detail of the attachments and to take us through it in a little bit more detail. But what I would highlight is, obviously, as you can imagine, over the last year, things were impacted completely understandably by the COVID pandemic. It would be extremely strange if they hadn't been, and that is reflected in the attachments that you will see. what the reports do show, certainly the public satisfaction reports, is still fantastic results, and especially considering everything that the team had to go through last year with the increased numbers of cremations that resulted from the pandemic peaks, the split shift systems that had to be hastily put in place. Indeed, some members of staff having COVID themselves and having to be isolated that worked at the facility. So the team has really gone for a lot in the last year, and I think when we go through the results with Joanna, exceptionally positive reports, especially considering the tough times that the team have had to go through over the last year. You will notice that I think some of the scheduling and availability for cremations is probably one of the areas in certain quarters. I think the January quarter, you'll see, where there were a few slightly negative comments about that in the report. There's very little that is negative. It's massively positive generally. But again, understandably, we're extremely busy, and the availability was slightly, and I do mean just slightly, considering everything that was happening, slightly compromised at times. But I think that's enough for me. Really, it's to thank Joanna and the team, and I like to use these forums as an opportunity to formally, publicly myself, thank the team for everything that they've done through this extremely trying year and the COVID pandemic peaks. So over to Joanna with the detail, if that's okay.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you for those kind words as well. They're very much appreciated, and they will be by the team, I know. So as Zach has explained, the business plan is presented annually to the Joint Committee for approval, and it includes service objectives and proposed maintenance and improvement projects to enhance and maintain the crematorium grounds and buildings for the forthcoming financial year. And the 2021-22 business plan was presented and approved by the Joint Committee at the meeting earlier this year. But in line with the Memorandum of Agreement, the purpose of the June annual review is to look back at the performance of the crematorium during the preceding financial year of 2020-21, to review the performance against the 2020-21 business plan. And a number of headings have been identified, which can be analysed in more detail, starting on page 16. And firstly, the total number of cremations in 2020-21 was 2,086. This was made up of 1,353 from Bridgend, 146 from the Vale of Glamorgan, 512 from Rhondda and Taff, with 75 non-residents. For the committee's additional information, this compares to a total number of 1,670 cremations in 2019-20. So with an increase of 416 cremations in this 2020-21, we can see the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on cremation figures, with approximately a quarter more deaths than would have been expected, which is a very sad statement to have to make. Members may recall that I reported to the Joint Committee on the 5th of March that in relation to the staffing structure, 2 temporary crematorium technicians were employed in May 2020 to assist with resilience during the COVID-19 pandemic. The second heading on page 16 details service standards through the results of the public satisfaction questionnaires in 2020-21, which are sent to all cremation applicants, and Zach has just touched upon this. The target is to achieve 100% overall satisfaction levels rated at good or excellent, and I'm pleased to report that these remain constant at 100%, with a target set in the 2021-22 business plan for the same result. The observations and comments provided by the cremation applicants are detailed. I've added some notes where applicable to assist with clarity. I won't go through them all, but you can see that due to the pandemic, 2020-21 has been extremely challenging. And despite the excessively high numbers of funerals and the restrictions in place to keep mourners and staff safe, feedback is very positive. and where necessary, I have responded to the cremation applicant in writing. I'd also add, additionally, and of particular note, is the achievement of the Green Flag Award again in 2020 for the 11th year in succession. The third heading on page 23 details the expenditure programme for planned works in 2020-21. In combination with the table on page 24, we can analyse the progress of the service objectives for last year. In summary, planned works in 2020-21 primarily concentrated on the replacement of the main electrical distribution boards for the crematorium. Despite the challenges of the pandemic, this was completed in September last year with a final spend of £17,000, which was within the estimated budget of £20,000. Members may recall that I mentioned on the 5th of March, in addition to this, the general maintenance budget allowed for the installation of air conditioning in the crematory operational areas and the office during 2020. The coronavirus pandemic has caused delays to our other three projects. Firstly, the project to install external lighting to the site has been moved to the current 2021-22 budget. The works were scheduled for the quietest time of the year, which would also coincide with the warm weather and the lighter nights. Consequently, the project has commenced on site and is due for completion at the end of this July. £8,000 of the 2020-21 allocated budget of £300,000 was spent in the 2020-21 on design fees, with the remaining £292,000 moved to this year's 2021-22 budget. And this was in the business report approved by the Joint Committee on the 5th of March this year. Secondly, the Flower Court extension, with works progressing well, although substantially delayed by the pandemic. All statutory approvals, such as planning and listed building consent, sustainable drainage and building regulations, were received by the end of last year. The finalising of the design stage has been delayed by the pandemic, but the architect has managed to overcome this and is currently making a prototype and testing the structural elements of the roof. The procurement phase is therefore actively progressing, and a further report is to be presented to the Joint Committee to seek final approval for the construction phase of the project at a later meeting. The project has been moved to the current 2021-22 budget. £11,000 was spent in 2020-21 on consultants' fees, while the remaining £509,000 was moved to the 2021-22 budget in the business report approved by the Joint Committee on the 5th of March this year. Thirdly, the pandemic has unfortunately delayed the chapel music and media systems upgrade, which has been moved to the current 2021-22 budget. £4,000 was spent in 2020-21 on interim webcast upgrades to cope with the additional supply demands and ensure reliability of performance during the pandemic, while the remaining £38,000 was moved to the 2021-22 budget in the business report approved by the Joint Committee on the 5th of March this year. The budget strategy review has been completed and was reported in the 2021-22 business plan report at the previous meeting of the Joint Committee on the 5th of March, with the service remaining financially self-sufficient. The 2021-22 business plan explained the adjustments in the revenue budget to accommodate variations in the works programme as a result of delays in works being undertaken in 2020-21. The table on page 24 summarises the timescales and officer responsibilities for the service objectives over the past and current financial years. In addition to these proposed service developments, a property contingency is included in the crematorium's revenue budget to cover unplanned works and general repair and maintenance. I would also remind the Joint Committee of the Crematorium Surplus Fund, which is designed to build up reserves for the future replacement of the cremators and ancillary plant in approximately 10 years' time, as well as fund all future service improvements. Maintaining this reserve will ensure the crematorium has sufficient long-term funds for both, plus any unplanned eventualities that could occur. Further details of this and the overall budget will be explained in the Treasurer's report. The Joint Committee is recommended to note the report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Joanna. Members, do we have questions? Could I have your questions, please? No one? Right. Will members please support the recommendation that the Joint Committee is recommended to note?
Excuse me, Chair. Councillor John. It's Councillor Julia Williams.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Williams.
I apologise for butting in, but I had a hospital appointment and I was hoping to get back in time. So I've literally dashed into my dining room now to join you all.
Yeah, we are fine.
So I'm just letting you know I'm here, and it's very nice to hear you, Joanna. And I don't have any questions. Thank you. As always, everything is just perfect.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williams. And Councillor Baldwin is also with us. Welcome, Councillor Baldwin. Good to see you with us.
Thank you, John.
I'd just like to say, first of all, before we take the recommendation, that I think it's absolutely superb the way we have carried out the work at the crematorium over the last 12 months. It's been a very, very difficult time for everyone. And certainly, I think these are outstanding report once again. So I would like to ask members whether they recommend to note the report. All in favour?
Yes, Chair. Well done, Joanna. Thank you.
Well done, Joanna.
Very much, Joanna.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Right, now we come to item 7, which is the annual accounting statement. And we now hand over to, here we are, Alicia Thomas, sorry. Yes, here we are. Over to you.
Oh, good afternoon. For the purpose of the recording, my name is Eilish Thomas. I'm the Finance Manager, Financial Control and Closing. The purpose of this report is to present the unaudited annual accounting statement for the 2021 financial year to the Joint Committee and to obtain approval to submit the annual accounting statement for Coychurch Crematorium to Audit Wales. Under Regulation 14 of the Accounts and Audit Wales Regulations 2014, the committee is required to complete an annual accounting statement as they are classed as a smaller local government body with annual income and expenditure below 2.5 million. The Accounts and Audit Wales Regulation 2018 require that the committee must formally approve the annual accounting statement by the 30th of June and certify that they present fairly the financial position of the Coychurch Crematorium. Unless the annual accounting statement needs to be amended, the auditor will certify the statement and send it back to the Joint Committee for publication with no further approval required. If, however, amendments are required, the auditor will send the statement back to the Joint Committee for amendment and reapproval before the auditor can certify the statement. The certified annual accounting statement must be published by no later than the 30th September. The annual accounting statement can be found in Appendix 1. Section 1 shows that in 2021, Coychurch Crematorium made a net surplus of 845,231. The surplus has been added to the accumulated reserve for the crematorium brought forward at the 31st of March 2020, bringing the total of that reserve to 2,898,883 at the 31st of March 2021, compared to 2,053,652 in the preceding year. Table 1 shows a summary of the final financial position for the crematorium for 2021 as compared to the budget set at the start of the financial year. Paragraph 4.2 provides some detail on the main variances. The overspend of 24,000 on employees is due to 2 additional crematorium technicians being employed from June 2020, offset by an underspend of 20,000 on other employee costs. The additional costs of the 2 posts have been funded by the Welsh Government COVID-19 Hardship Fund and is shown in the increased income for 2020-21. The underspend of 39,000 on premises is made up of underspends on various types of maintenance and business rates. The overspend of 12,000 on supplies, services and transport is made up of an overspend on items for resale, offset by underspends on purchase of equipment, security services and equipment repairs and maintenance. Table 2 provides a breakdown of the planned maintenance budget along with the outturn and variances for 2020-21. The underspends are due to the projects being delayed as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. All 3 projects are planned to proceed in 21-22 and are included in the planned capital maintenance budget for 21-22. Income is higher than budgeted by 398,000 due to increases in the number of cremations, the receipt of the child burial fees and COVID-19 hardship fund grants from Welsh Government. 2020-21 saw an increase in the number of cremations of 25%, which was largely driven by the COVID-19 pandemic. It is anticipated that income levels will return to normal levels in 21-22. 4.3 explains that in addition, a supplementary balance sheet is provided in Table 3. This supplementary information provides a further breakdown of the figures recorded in Appendix 1. This is for information only and is not subject to audit at year end. Further information to explain the balances is provided in paragraph 4.4. Property, plant and equipment of 4.587 million, as recorded on line 12 of the annual accounting statement, represent buildings, land and fixtures and fittings. Inventories of 29,000 relates to stock included in the balance sheet and relate to memorials purchased for future use in the Garden of Remembrance. Short-term debtors of 165,000 represent the monies owed to the crematorium by trade debtors such as funeral directors. Cash and cash equivalents of 2.717 million represents the cash held by Bridgend County Borough Council, the financial services provider, as part of its general bank account. Short-term creditors of 6,000 represent monies owed by the Coychurch Crematorium for goods services received in 2020-21. The accumulated surplus of 2.899 million, as recorded in line 11 of the annual accounting statement, reflects the surplus for the current year and the balance of any previous year's surpluses deficits held to fund any future capital works. The Joint Committee is recommended to approve the annual accounting statement for the Coychurch Crematorium for 2020-21, as shown in Appendix 1, and request that the Chair of the Joint Committee signs the annual accounting statement.
Thank you very much indeed. Excellent report once again. Members, do I have questions, please? No hands showing. Are you happy to accept the recommendation that the Joint Committee is recommended to approve the annual accounting statement for Coychurch Crematorium for 2021 and request that the Chair of the Joint Committee signs the annual accounting statement? All in favour?
Yes,
Right,
definitely.
thank you very much indeed.
Yes,
Thank you.
Chair.
Well, that brings to no other items I have on the agenda today. So that brings our meeting to a close. I would just like to thank everyone for attending today, and hopefully we'll meet at the crematorium, maybe Zach, in September for a visit to the crematorium.
Yes, hopefully, and with restrictions easing all the time, we should be able to possibly even meet in a room again at some point.
There we are. Well, anyway, let's hope so. Let's enjoy the summer, hopefully, and we'll all see everyone back in September. Thank you very much. Elise, I'll contact you shortly about the signature, okay?
Lovely. Thank you.
Joanna, thank you very much indeed. We look forward to seeing you in due course.
John. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, good.